We get pretty cozy with the mics just because there's a lot of extra noise, so that'll...
Okay. Can I tilt the mic down a little bit?
Yep, that's good. I heard you guys have your own podcasting extravaganza.
We started a podcast last year called From Dreamers to Disruptors.
Okay.
And we try to bring on people that have some kind of like, in our industry, that have kind of a dream story that turned into a journey and a disruption, and it's fun. Yeah,
I feel like every founder like fits in that category, or
we get a lot of founders. Yeah. We've done some venture capitalists. We've done some current CEOs and some partners and customers, and it's really fun. Yeah, we love it.
We've always talked to patient advocates, and that kind of also there's that side of it too.
Yep.
And then people that are like musicians and artists, and build something that touches on the medical space or health space.
Yeah, I would like to kind of pivot that direction a little bit. I mean, even if it's only tangentially related to health, I think there's a lot of, we could go a little further with the theme outside of pure life sciences. Maybe someone battling with a disease, but that also had a different kind of dream. And I think we're going to do that. We've only done about 13 to 14 episodes at this point, but we're kind of building it.
Yeah, podcasting in general, you have to, it's a slow build, so you gotta really, and then once you kind of hit that stride, then really,
well, we're always looking for new guests, so if you have any ideas, pitch them to us, because we try to do it live like this. I've done a couple over Zoom because we just couldn't make the logistics work, but we bring people into our New York office, and we got a whole setup just exactly like this, actually.
Nice.
It's fun.
So I'll give a brief intro to the camera, and then we can just be in conversation back and forth.
Okay, what's the one we're starting with?
So research on the state of AI. So I'll ask you, you released a report recently. Tell me a little bit about that to give some context. And then if you want to go into some of the data about the 92% of leaders that are increasing their AI spend, and, into the question itself.
Okay.
So, metadata. I'm Jesse McQuarters, editor of StatBrand Studio, and I'm here at Stat's Breakthrough Summit West 2026 with Anthony Costello, who's CEO of Medidata. Anthony, so great to talk with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jesse. I'm excited to be here.
All right, so you guys have your fingers on the pulse of the industry and healthcare. Tell me a little bit about some of the reporting that you do and some of the analysis that you've done recently.
Well, we try to have our finger on the pulse, but if you're following this industry, the pulse is accelerating. Like everyone's on the treadmill right now in terms of pulse. But yeah, I mean, I think what you're alluding to is our research and our conversations with customers find that a huge percentage of this industry is really flooding to AI, and I'll call it the potential for AI, because I think we see a lot more piloting, experimenting at this point than we see true scalable adoption. And that's really something that we're very focused on as a company, is getting to that point where we're beyond the pilot and this becomes the new normal. But the right impulse is there. The technology is accelerating things dramatically, and our customers in the life sciences industry are looking for ways to kind of take older, slower processes and put them on steroids with AI.
Yeah, the potential is absolutely remarkable, and you see, you kind of know that there's something exciting happening, but yeah, you have to kind of get in on the ground level and get your hands in the process and really figure it out. Interestingly, your report says that 92% of leaders are increasing their AI spend, and most are moving beyond just simple automation towards complex simulations and virtual twins. Really incredible, the simulations you can do in research and discovery, and really understanding health data in silico.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the whole ball game. If we could fast forward a few years today and run many of these trials that we struggle to run today with the use of virtual twins, it would be game changing for the industry and for patients to see these therapies come to market much faster. So what we virtual twins are central to our mission and what we're trying to do at Medidata, but you need a certain type of historical data that's high enough quality to build the twins. So what we've done at this point, Medidata now has run almost 40,000 historical clinical trials, and we've created virtual twins of those trials. Everything from the trial itself, the study design, the sites, the patient recruitment, the budgets. There's twins of all of these pieces and parts of those 40,000 trials. And you can use those twins to help design the best next trial that you do. Of course, our ultimate end goal is to be able to build a virtual twin of a true patient population and of individual patients themselves. And we imagine a world in the future where the entire trial, or at least large parts of the trial, could be run against virtual twins or data replicas of patients instead of exposing as many real patients to these trials. And we've got a lot of early evidence with programs like synthetic control arms, where we build a database synthetic control arm so that all the patients on the trial get the real test therapy instead of getting a placebo or being randomized to a placebo arm. We create the placebo or control arm with historical data instead. So, these are early indicators of what's possible, but this concept of a virtual twin of all the mechanics of a trial, the operations of a trial, the conduct and the design, as well as the actual patients themselves, we believe is really the way that this industry transforms into something that can just plug and chug many new types of life-saving therapies to the market in much, much faster timelines than we've ever seen before.
Absolutely. We'll go into a little more detail about that, because clinical trials are certainly very expensive. They take a long time. So what you're talking about is really accelerating that process. What is the benefit for the patient on the ground? How would a patient experience some of these tools being put into effect?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to patients, and we're at the STAT conference here today, and there were some speakers that touched on sort of the miraculous nature of what we were all able to do during COVID. And it's interesting when you have that kind of an epidemic. All the stop signs come out, everybody adopts the tech that they need, and you find a way to get the therapy to market faster. But when you talk to patients, they are all struggling with their own personal, individualized COVID, if you will. Many of them are struggling with life-altering diseases, life-ending diseases. Many of those diseases have no cure. Some of them have no treatment at all. And in cases, many rare diseases don't even have enough patients around the world with the disease to create any kind of comparator database or any kind of historical evidence to help that research along. So, what we see in this kind of newer era of acceleration is through the use of AI, we can change the trajectory, the sort of very sad trajectory we have in our industry today. 9 out of 10 trials fail. And patients they're not always aware of that, but as industry people, we know the incredibly high failure rate is many times because of budgets can't support that trial, or the trial can't get up and running fast enough, or there's something better in the pipeline that the resources go to, or the study doesn't work and we know early on that it doesn't work, but the process takes so long to sort of bring that trial to an end. So we want to take all of these resources and put them into the things that work. And as you also know, and we talked about earlier in the conference here, the AI is accelerating the development of promising new molecules all the time too. So we're going to see over the next few years a flood of new potential molecules coming into the market. And on the other end, we're seeing regulators do very interesting things like the FDA's new initiative on real-time data analysis. We're going to see an acceleration on the bookends of how we do this, and it's the stuff in the middle, all the clinical operations of writing a protocol, getting that protocol off the ground, recruiting sites, recruiting patients, collecting the data. Those are the pieces that will become the blockers, or as we say at Medidata, the long pole in the tent. And we're really focused now on accelerating that piece so that a patient can see a therapy that works, get over the line and into the commercial setting as fast as possible.
Right. You'd mentioned the FDA moving towards a real-time approach to clinical research. Tell me a little bit about what that means, and what should life sciences organizations be doing now to prepare for this shift in regulation?
So we don't know yet exactly what it means. FDA is running a couple of pilots. Those pilots have been successful at their relatively small scale. But my hope, after being in this industry for 30 years and really struggling with the time it takes to get data through a process into a regulator, my hope is that with the access that we have now to longitudinal patient records through EMR, the data that we've collected and what we know about how these trials run at companies like Medidata after running tens of thousands of them, and then some of the more, I think, exciting and newer data capture phenomenons that we're seeing in just the world of general healthcare, like these Oura rings. Mm-hmm. And my Apple Watch, these things are 24/7 continuously monitoring me. They know so much about how I'm doing that is applicable to a clinical research trial. So, you put all this stuff together and you have regulator willingness to see it all in real time. You put an organization like Medidata, and we're not the only ones, there are lots of companies focused on clinical operations. You put companies like that at the center to provide the throughput of high quality data from the source, which is the patient, to the regulators in real time, and you have the sort of mechanics to accelerate the way these processes work, 10x, 50x, 100x, and that's really what patients are looking for, is for this industry to put the right drugs into the process and then execute the process as fast as possible.
Yeah, I love the idea that somebody could be under cardiac monitoring and just constantly generating data about how their heart rhythm is, and then AI can pick out this little this arrhythmia 2 months ago, and so much data that a normal cardiologist wouldn't be able to kind of track down. But with some of these new tools,
these are the things we're looking for, right? I mean, if I'm on a drug trial, that research team wants to know, how am I sleeping? How am I moving around? How am I feeling? Did I do more last week than I did this week? Does something change the day after I get my treatment, or the week after I get my treatment, that looks different than the week before, or 2 weeks after, or 3 months after? So, historically in clinical trials, we send patients off to a research site every so often, call it 4 weeks, every 6 weeks, to evaluate how they're performing on the trial. But these days, we've got the potential to really bring that much closer to the patient's real life, decentralize it into easy to manage devices like this, and start to really understand the real-time signal that we're seeing from that patient's life and their reaction to the new therapeutic. It isn't the whole story. We still need complicated equipment that only exists in sites. We still need lab values. We still need real physicians overseeing these patients. I'm not saying like Oura Ring will spit out the answer to your clinical trial, but the continuous monitoring piece of what is now becoming affordable and ubiquitously used among a patient population can be a big, important piece of the way we see the future of research.
Absolutely, and just along those lines of patient centricity and being able to have options to deliver that data that's not going to a clinical trial research center or a hospital or something.
Yeah, and the historical nature of this data, I think this is what I love now, because I've been an Apple Watch wearer for 8 years. Mm-hmm. I've had my Oura Ring for several years. Like, I can now see a trend in certain things in my own background. Mm-hmm. And if you layer that on top of all of my health records going back 20 years, you start to put together a picture. I could have a virtual twin of me based on all of those data that would be an infinitely better starting point for a doctor that brings me into a clinical trial. That starting point for that clinician who's studying some new therapy is eminently better than anything we've ever seen before. But the industry's got to have a willingness to go grab onto those new data sources, work with patients in a different way, decentralize big parts of the trial, and kind of adopt some of this technology to change the way it works.
Where do sponsors most often get interoperability wrong today? And what is the minimum viable connected ecosystem required to make real-time decisions creditable and auditable?
So I think the industry's moved a lot on this over the last few years. There's it's still challenging to get companies to share data and to see those data as not necessarily the ways that they compete. So it's a challenging environment. Interoperability's gotten much better. Even the sort of most fervent competitors in my space, like the companies that really go head to head all the time on technology, have gotten better at being open about collaborating and sharing data for the good of the sponsor and for the good of the research. And let's be honest, sponsors or pharma companies have more and more mandated that. They've said, look, I'm using 6 of you vendors to provide different parts of the data stream for this trial. You all have to work together, you all have to share, you all have to put data into my Medidata lake, or my data lake, or a system like Medidata offers for data lakes to kind of bring those data together for the sponsor. So that's kind of the way we think about interoperability. The more the industry is willing to abstract the data away from personal identifying information, away from sponsor or pharma company, away from sites, we can abstract away from all of those things, take the data from 40,000 historical trials and do a better and better job predicting how the next study will work or not work. And that's really what our customers want to see. How can I set up my next study to have the highest probability of success, because it's geared, it's sort of like, it's sourced from the knowledge and the know-how of doing this 40,000 times before. I think the closer we get to that, the more we'll change this 1 out of 10 success rate that we see today.
Yeah, and those interoperability points and collaborations between firms across the industry, does that happen naturally, or does it take leaders to kind of set forth and be like, okay, we need to figure this out, and we need to figure out how to interoperate and plug data into each other? Or is it government that does it?
It's a little bit of both. Yeah, I mean, it's all of the above, right? If you have to have a champion almost always. Like, there's got to be someone inside of the pharma company that says there's a value here for us. We're going to sort of let down the guard a little bit, share the data, and be the recipient of shared data. We at Medidata, we call it give to get, right? So if you are giving in your abstracted, de-identified data, you can have the benefit of the group's data. It's like a crowdsourced data set from all of these historical trials. And that's become, I think, very fruitful for our customers who participate in that. It also is helped by a mandate. So the more regulators say, we don't want to just trust the data from this one trial. Let's basket things together. Let's bundle. Let's group. Let's look at historical evidence. Let's begin leveraging things like virtual twins in a much bigger way. Any kind of regulatory suggestion / mandate will drive the industry faster, and we're seeing more and more of that.
And we talked about site centricity and patient centricity a little bit. Really important that it's authentic and really at the center of work that you do. What does that mean in concrete terms, and what are the friction points you hear from sites and participants today? And what's one measurable signal that tells you that a trial is truly designed around a patient?
So, yeah, I think if sites and patients were sitting at the table with us right now, I think they would both start to kind of serialize on the same word, which is burden. But they mean it in very different ways. The burden that we put on patients to fulfill the needs of these very complex study designs is often, onerous at best. Yeah. The traveling, the stringent kind of protocol criteria, you have to do this thing and this thing and this thing in the right order, no delays, data have to be on time. So the reason that we at Medidata have had such a huge initiative over the last over 10 years now to think about patient centricity, and we have a whole patient centricity team at Medidata that focuses on how do we make the technology more accessible to patients, and then how do we bring more and more of the research outside of the site setting and into the patient's home so that we can get data in real time and so that we can reduce the burden for them. Site burden's a totally different thing, because sites are already up to their eyeballs in tech. They work for a lot of pharmas on a lot of different trials, and then all of those pharmas work with a lot of technology vendors, and it all is just a multiplier for the sites to see more and more new stuff that they have to use. A site running 10 different trials might have 10 completely different sets of technology based on the preferences of those 10 pharma companies. So it just explodes in their mind to be a burden of different methodologies. It's very hard to create standards. It's very hard to keep up with not only the requirements of the protocol, but the differentiation between the tech stacks that they have to use day in and day out. So a lot of what we're trying to do with sites is lower the technology burden, give them a single call it a platform or a single entry point for them to do more and more of the things they do in one place. And we need the help of our customers and pharma to support that. But the sites are looking for a way to lower the technology burden because they want to spend their time with the patients treating the disease, not with a bunch of tech that's required to run that clinical research trial.
Absolutely, yeah. Reducing those burdens, reducing those barriers, and yeah, just facilitating everything. Sounds really fantastic. Anthony Costello, what is the best part of your job? What do you enjoy doing most? Do you get to get on the ground and see some of this work in action on site and around the country?
Oh yeah, no, I mean I get around the country. We have offices around the world, and I spend a lot of time traveling and meeting customers and doing conferences and internationally, and at our headquarters in New York. But I think what really gets me up in the morning and makes me run at full speed all day is this idea that we can move the needle on bringing therapies to patients faster. And our mission at Medidata is very much about powering smarter technology, because we really do think that technology can change the game for healthier patients, because we really do believe that whatever your disease is, this industry is established to help you live a better life with that disease. So I'm a sucker for innovation. I'm always driving the organization to be more innovative and more creative, and to bring these technologies to the point that they're usable at scale, and that we can be a trusted partner for our customers to use these sometimes very new ideas and new technologies at scale. But it's really that innovation, and what drives our quest for new innovation and faster ways of doing things is always that if we can bring the drug to market faster, Medidata, because we run so many trials, has just a massive effect on the number of drugs and the number of countries, the number of patients, and the number of therapeutic areas that we can touch every year. And we're really trying to do more and more of that.
All right. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you. Great to be here. Great.
Up.
I don't think we needed a pause. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
You probably couldn't hear anything. I want to read the last question.
No, I thought it was good. We hit on everything, and I thought you did a great job of flowing it all together.
Yeah. It always does.